Hi everyone, welcome back. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into the impact business models. You'll hear me using the term IBMs a lot. We use the shorthand, the abbreviated form in B-Lab lingo. But yeah, impact business models, because this is what makes the impact assessment stand out, I think, and it's what inspires a lot of companies as well. So just again to provide a bit of the scene, right, what we're working towards. The B movement, so the B Corp movement has globally as of today around 9,000 B Corps, and a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them have created the impact assessment where they were also awarded impact business model points, so IBM points. And we'll see also some examples of companies who certify without impact business models, but the majority of companies does rely on impact business models to get them across the 80 points. So most of the companies on this slide, if you visit them, if you visit their public profile, you'll see which impact business models they score points in. And we'll dive a little bit deeper into the what. So what is an impact business model and why is it awarded? And also a little bit into the how. So how does B-Lab verify these impact business models? How do we measure success? It all comes down again to the B-Impact assessment tool. So this is the context to which we're going to be talking about impact business models. The B-Impact assessment is, the holistic assessment that you've probably been working on by now. So this is mostly repetition for most people, I think, but still it's good to realize that the impact business models are all in the context of these 5 impact areas that you're familiar with by now. So each of these impact areas has its own dedicated impact business models that companies can score points in. If you remember from an earlier video, there are essentially 2 ways of capturing impact. We talk often about operational impact. So this is the day-to-day running of the business, right? These questions you can more or less ask any company. Questions about facility management, purchasing, the way you treat your employees, your governance structures. These questions you can ask any company, essentially. They are aligned with best-in-class standards. And as I mentioned, it's really about the day-to-day running of the business. So doing things impactfully. Impact business models, on the other hand, are really the secret sauce of the B-Impact assessment and are very specific to the reason of existence of the company. So it relates to your DNA, to your reason of existence, the way that you are structured as a company to provide a positive influence on one of your stakeholders. That also makes them very contingent upon the company that we're looking at. So not every impact business model is applicable to each and every company. And again, they are unique to the B-Impact assessment. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into the examples that are out there and into how to demonstrate the impact in these impact business models. So again, operational impact is really about doing things impactfully. So doing your facility management impactfully, sourcing renewable energy for your office, for example, but also treating your employees in an impactful way, so providing them with health benefits and financial stability, whereas impact business models is really about doing impactful things. So, okay, you're sourcing renewable energies, you have financial incentives for your employees, but is the core of your business structured around an impactful product or service? So this is kind of the nuance that we want to make between these 2 kinds of impact. Impact business models, these are all the available impact business models for companies in the Benelux. And you'll see that they're also structured by the impact areas that you're already familiar with, which is great. It makes it a lot easier to work with. We're going to take a look at the examples here in the bottom left. So you might be able to get a sense of how impact business models try to capture the reason of existence of a company. You'll see, because of these examples, ideally you will try to get a sense of which of these might be applicable to your company, and also try to be a bit self-critical, conservative in assigning yourself the impact business model points, because in the end they are very hard to verify during the review process. So Tony Chocolonely, which for most people in the Benelux I think is a familiar name. If you're not familiar with them, they exist to eradicate slavery from the cocoa supply chain. So they're a chocolate company, and their whole reason of existence, the reason that they were founded and they still operate today, is that they want to make the cocoa supply chain slavery free. So this should get you thinking about, okay, which impact area could this be related to, right? It's not really a mission about the environment or about the customers, is it? It's more about the communities that they operate in, so in the supply chain specifically. So you might have guessed that Tony's scores points in the supply chain poverty alleviation impact business model. They can show that by, among other things, being fair trade certified, that they pay premiums and to their farmers, and that they have a lot of structures and policies in place to help alleviate poverty and eradicate slavery in the supply chain. So this makes kind of sense, right? I think this is still relatively easy to grasp, that they score these points in this impact business model. Patagonia, on the other hand, you may be familiar with them. They are more geared towards the environment impact area. They are an impact-driven outdoor brand, and because of a number of initiatives, they score points in the resource conservation impact business model. Resource conservation in this context, for example, because they use recycled input materials, and they also have repair and return systems, very elaborate repair systems in place. So these are all ways that Patagonia has demonstrated with the right documentation and backing it up with evidence, but they have demonstrated that their products conserve resources when compared to market alternatives. So that is why they score resource conservation points. The Good Role, which may be a less familiar name for people not familiar with all B Corps, which fair enough, right? The Good Role is, among other things, structured to make donations for every toilet roll that they send, every roll of toilet paper that they sell. They donate X percentage to a charity which builds sanitation facilities in third world countries. So this is a buy one, donate one kind of model, and these can generally be rewarded with the design to give impact business model. So the Good Role by B-Lab standards is designed to give. They are the company is structured in such a way that they make they have a commitment to very regular donations, whether monetary or in-kind donations can both be considered here. So that's how they score points in the design to give impact area. Chiesi, which maybe in the Benelux is not that familiar of a name, but it is an Italian B Corp which exists to help people deal with and remediate rare diseases. So they make medicine for rare diseases. What does that sound like? Well, which impact area would that be most closely related to, right? It makes you think about the customers that they serve. So they help their customers increase their quality of life, essentially. And they do that by scoring points in the health and wellness impact business model, so in the customer's impact area there. So that's one of the ways that as a company you can also have an impact on your customers. And lastly, the general certified B Corp logo there. I put it there because I want to highlight that the mission log IBM in the governance impact area on the left here is mandatory for all B Corps. So this is a bit of the odd one out, as we call it. It's a bit of an odd duck in the sense that this is not optional, this is not a bonus impact business model, but this impact business model is mandatory because it relates to the implementation of the legal requirement. By amending your articles of association, you qualify for this impact business model. So generally speaking, all B Corps have a number of points in the mission log IBM. How do B Labs analysts verify a company's self-assessed score? This is, for many companies, the million-dollar questions. How is it verified whether or not I score these points? So we're going to take a little bit of a closer look at some of the ways that B Lab verifies this impact. So the rule of thumb here is always that every point scored needs to be backed up with documentation. So for every little point that you score, you want to have the right documentation to back it up. Some examples, you can use internal company documents for that. You can imagine that a lot of the points you score in the employees, in the workers' impact area, are verified with an employee handbook, which has to be available to all employees. We can also think about something like a supplier code of conduct. A supplier code of conduct allows you to make requests and have a sort of a quality check on your suppliers, right? So if you're claiming a certain impact in your supply chain or in your value chain, this could be verified by B Labs analysts with a supplier code of conduct in which certain requirements are documented. And lastly, also the articles of association I mentioned already just now. The legal requirement, the implementation of the legal clauses for a B Corp certification will be verified with the articles of association. There's also more performance-based reports that can serve as documentation. So a lot of product-based companies that are passionate about decreasing their carbon footprint will have life cycle assessments about their products. And if you haven't conducted these yet in your product-based companies, I would recommend looking into this because it can be a good way to prove and track and improve the impact of your products. Environmental management systems, or EMS for short, but also a P&L, so a profit and loss statement, can also demonstrate certain cash flows, whether it's about certain revenue that you got from a product which has a positive impact, or supplier expenses for recycled input materials. These ideally can all also be corroborated or double-checked using a P&L statement. There are also a lot of external validations or certifications that B Lab automatically recognizes and rewards with impact business model points. So this is especially interesting if you're a product-based company and you might have input materials or certain You buy certain products which are certified, so product level certification or material level certifications can sometimes be quite easily recognized and rewarded by B-Labs analysts as deserving impact business model credits. And I have a couple of examples of these validations or accreditations. So in the bottom left here, I chose 3 different product level or material level certifications which are recognized and rewarded by B-Lab with automatic impact business model credit, starting with the USDA organic standard. So using organic input materials which are certified will likely make you eligible for the toxin reduction impact business model. By being organic certified, it's a certain degree of authority, right, that proves that you are using non-toxic materials. So this is quite easily translatable to IBM credit in the B Corp framework. For fair trade certification, I mentioned it during the example of Tony Chocolonely already. It is directly related to supply chain poverty alleviation. So by being fair trade certified, there is a certain level of performance, a certain level of supply chain responsibility that is demonstrated by being fair trade certified. By paying premiums to farmers, by having long-term contracts, for example, these are all elements that are reflected in the supply chain poverty alleviation impact business model. Lastly, the FSC certificate, which I think is also quite well known. It says something about the way and so the how and the why of your wood or paper sourcing. So it says something about how you are preserving or conserving the land and wildlife around us. So by sourcing FSC paper, you adhere to certain standards in your input materials. So this is related to the land and wildlife conservation impact business model. We have a couple of other ones which, for example, in the workers' impact area, which are not necessarily always able to be proven with certifications or other accreditation schemes, but there are still ways in which you can pretty easily explore whether you are eligible for these or not. So for worker-owned, for example, you must have at least 40% of the company being owned by non-executive employees. So this usually, for most companies, this requires conscious decision and quite a solid structure, governance structure, to make sure that all non-executive employees are able to buy shares in the company. And to qualify for this impact business model, you also need to adhere to the 40% threshold. So you have to have at least 40% of the company be in the hands of non-executive employees, which will allow you to be eligible for the worker-owned impact business model. Another very cool example is workforce development. Something I'm very passionate about myself is having companies that have a structured way of employing, hiring, and also improving the skills of people with who are chronically underemployed. So who might have traditionally a distance to the labor market, or who are, for example, only just entering the Dutch ecosystem. So these are all examples of workforce development initiatives. A Dutch company that's a good example of this is Heroyam, and they indeed have a very ambitious way of connecting recently immigrated refugees and upskilling them, teaching them life skills, but also making sure that they are employed in the long term. So it is key for this impact business model that you are employing these people on company payroll yourself. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. Before I let you go, I want to mention this absolute treasure chest of resources. We have an overview of around, I think it's 12 guides for the most common impact business models, which are publicly available on our website for everyone to visit and to explore and exploit to their needs. So I would highly recommend going to our website and you will find, for example, this guide on toxin reduction, so for using less toxic materials, also for the customer's impact area, so for impact improvement, and for 10 other impact business models. The slides will be linked to this video, so you will be able to click on the pictures here or on the treasure chest itself, so that will take you right to the resources. But also you can find them if you Google or use the knowledge base that is linked in the BIA itself. You can also find these guides, so they should be easy to find. And lastly, and then I'll really let you go, remember these two things, that most B Corps score points in 0 to maximum 2 impact business models, other than the mission log IBM, which is mandatory. So good to keep in mind, if you're scoring in more impact business models than 2, best to probably take a double check and be a little bit critical about how many reasons of existence can my company really have, right? Like, can we really have 4 or 5 impact business models to reflect our 4 or 5 reasons of existence? And also feel free to reach out if you have questions about this. And it is possible to certify without impact business models. So there's plenty of companies who have certified with only the mission log IBM and who have managed to get their remaining 70-something points or more in operational score. So by doing their daily business in a good way. So by sourcing the right energy, packaging, employee policies, etc. So it is possible. So it's good to know that you're not expected to have an impact business model per se. I believe that's it, and wishing you good luck, and I'm sure we'll see each other in the near future.